Good. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order again and acknowledge that we're on the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq. I have a record of attendance, and I'll be looking for a motion to excuse Councillor Lesser.
So moved.
Okay. Moved Councillor Cleveland, second by Councillor Dares. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Declarations of conflict of interest, anyone? You can certainly declare at the time of the agenda item. Approval of the agenda, additions or deletions. I have two additions. 11A is construction bids. 11B is update on the minister's visit. CAO, that's going to be just questions around those programs. Any other additions? Go ahead, Deputy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Bell. Can't see the lights.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an addition in camera for information.
Okay. Thank you.
Could we add Emancipation Day, please?
So C is the emancipation. Anything else? Okay, a motion to approve the agenda with the additions, please. Councillor Hatfield, second by Councillor Cleveland. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to our presentation. So we have two today. We have Meadowfields Playground and we have Yarmouth Pride. So we'll start with Meadowfields.
Just wonder if we could, if I could make a motion to absent Councillor Lesser.
You just did that.
We did that?
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Fast. We're good. All right. So
This puts us, Lindsay.
good. Welcome.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Mayor Mood, councillors, staff, and everybody else. Thank you for taking the time to listen to an exciting project that we have underway at Meadowfields School. My name's Kevin Goby, and I'm the vice principal at Meadowfields. I've been there, I guess, 18 years now already somehow, and I'm joined by Lori McClay, who's been there longer than me. She's our phys ed teacher. At 21 years, she leads our health promoting school team, and with that is our student council. So she looks after our school climate and our school culture, and she's knocking that out of the park. And most recently, she's quarterbacking this seemingly growing project. And I think to back it up, just a little bit of the history of our playground is Meadowfields was a privately owned school up until a few years ago. Back about 25 years ago, there was sort of a provincial experiment to have schools privately owned. The province bought those back a few years ago, so that was us, and we've sort of inherited an expired playground. Currently, as it stands, used to stand, we've just had some of the pieces removed, which doesn't leave much for our students. But in steps Lori, and she's gotten the voice of the students to create something I think not just our school can enjoy, but I think this is going to be almost like a destination and a place that a lot of families can visit, even from outside of our area. I say that because I have a young family, and many of our friends, we travel to Metagging Playground and go to that often, a community-run playground. So I think it would be nice if we have something here. And what Lori and the students have been working on is just amazing. But I don't want you to take my word for it. We have a little video on our next slide that our students have put together.
It's so sensitive. Now how do I start it?
It's just embedded in, it just needs to be clicked.
Can we?
Okay, that's all right. I could sort of ad lib what we have, and I think there's a diagram sort of that's in there. But the students in the video talk about sort of what's wrong with the playground. Like, a lot was dangerous. It was actually chained up. We had some people joking with us at Halloween saying they thought our playground was dressed up for Halloween because it had ribbons and chains all over it. But it really is unusable. So our plan, and I don't know if the further slides have it, but it's basically, we have a boxed in pea gravel pit, basically, so it's not accessible. We want to address that. We have a lot of space there that's not really being used, so we'd like to clear that area, and it is going to be like a playground park, and with gazebos, with an extended play area, with a 200-meter walking trail sort of around the playground area, but with getting up to standards with safety and accessibility, and with our, it is a lofty goal that we have, but I think it's important that we have that. I think it's just something that our area needs, and our school definitely needs it at this point. So,
Okay, so I jumped in through Health Promoting Schools and the Student Council. So we grabbed ideas from students in grades 3 to 5. We meet with them regularly, and I said, okay, you see the playground? That area that you're not allowed to be on, said, we need to fix it. So I said, go on back to your classrooms, talk to your classmates, and bring us back your dream playground. Tell us what you want. And so they came back. We sent those ideas out to the suppliers, and they sent us some quotes and some designs and things like that. So the students are really excited. This is really touchy. So those are some of the ideas that the students came up with. Some not realistic, but I gave you a smattering of everything. We're probably not going to do a zip line, those kinds of things. A mini hockey arena. I don't know. Some things are doable, more so than others. So we took all of that. We got some designs back, and this is what we would like to have. Now, the track around it, it's not all to measure, like proper
scale.
Thank you. And but the track around, we're looking at 200 meters, and there would be a little sign, come on out, and after 5 laps, well, there you go, you've done a kilometer and things like that. But an accessible entrance, which we currently do not have, but also going through the play space so that our students that require those accessibility pieces can get to the playground equipment, but also offshoot to the sides to picnic tables and benches. And we don't have a whole lot of trees on our property right now, so we wanted to beautify and make that, add some shelter to the space. There's also a chain link fence on the bottom, trying to keep the cars separate. Right now, the students run through the parking lot to get to the playground, so we're looking at changing the entrance and adding an outdoor playground at the back, looking out into the forest. So we're thinking that incorporating their playground pieces on the inside of the track, but then the outside, the track area for everybody, the families. Sit down, have a picnic, watch your children play, and so on. So, did I just skip any? No. So we've been working on some funding. We have had some school fundraisers. We are always applying for grants. We have had some in-kind donations. Nick Hurlbert this week, in-kind donation of pulling out the existing playground. Donations from families, local businesses, and then we set a donor level to build a donor wall on the outside. Some people might be encouraged by that. So we have a bestie, a friend, a buddy, and a pal donor levels. So trying to have some fun with that, and the students, of course, help with all that. So that takes us to budget, which I don't think they're going to be able to open that up either.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think what we've realized is that to address some of the safety and accessibility options. I mean, if you put playground name on it, that adds a zero onto the price as well. So I don't know, would you want to know sort of our estimated sort of budget for this project? Where we're looking at about a $300,000 project here, and it seems like it's growing, but
It is. It
just
is
with
growing.
like you add fence, you get space cleared, and just I think one of the quotes we got just for site preparation was $90,000. So
The playground equipment itself was $273. That's without any of the land, the site preparation. So, is this presentation being sent to you? So, like, if you wanted to,
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So you can look at those pieces there. But what's not in the budget for cost right now is the paving or concrete of the track. I have not received. I have an estimate, but I haven't received those quotes yet. But also, I think the province has announced that by 2030, they want all playgrounds completely accessible. So the surfacing, we were looking at one thing, and that might have to change. We were looking at the wood chip, which is accessible, but I don't know if it's accessible to the degree that they want it. So we don't want to put something in and then 5 years later have to tear it out and do again. So that's something else that the number might keep going. And what do we have next? Oh, wait, I'm all over the place. We are currently at, I thought it was going to show us, what do we currently have?
Is it around 50? Did we get to the 15 mark?
Yeah, 15,
Just with our school,
16.
everything between sort of donations online or to the school or school fundraiser, we've raised about $15,000 so far.
Yeah, something like that. Might be more. So, thank you for having us. The video would have taken up a little bit more time, and it was really cute because the students did it. So
Hopefully you can access it on your own if
Yeah.
you can send that presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the presentation. I don't know if I could open that video. Could
Actually,
you
the
open the
video
video?
opened when I tried it here.
It did open for you? Okay. Good.
So what was your budget?
300,000
Plus,
plus, because it's the accessibility piece. I'm not sure where that's going to land.
You have all the things that you like to do, and then there's all the things that you need to do. I'm going through the same with the house renovation right now.
so, go ahead, Counselor, and then I'll.
Your Worship, I realize we have another presentation, but is this the appropriate time to be discussing this one and making motions?
No, we're not. We don't
So-
make any decisions at a.
No, for the purpose of the folks that are in front of us, though, could you tell us when we will have that discussion?
Jeff? Yep, at our next committee of the whole, which is in 3 weeks, actually. Yeah, because we've moved it up. Yeah. So we just never make any decisions at the
Yeah.
committee of the whole meeting during a presentation. So I have to ask, where's the province on this?
So, because we applied for grants from them as well, and we were denied at this point for that particular grant. There's new ones coming up all the time.
Okay.
We keep applying, but at that one, we were denied.
So
We'll
I-
reapply for that one. I think we weren't at the point to be successful in that. Like, we were up against the Yarmouth Splash Park. They're ready to go, right? They're a lot further along in this process. I think in January, when these are due again, I think we'll be in a lot better shape to be successful with that.
Okay.
We will
And
reapply.
at that
That's
point,
fair.
I think we only had about 5,000 of our own dollars as well. So
Okay.
that might have been a contributing factor.
Yeah.
We have the support of our, Tri-County, the regional executive director. We have letter support from him, and we have Lori, so we.
Yeah.
The success of the splash park, in my opinion, is because they handed it back to the community. Like
Right.
the community just came in and couldn't give enough. and they quickly raised that, whatever it was, 345 or more.
And we're using those folks with us too. As
Yeah.
that gets wrapped up, we're
Yeah.
gonna poach a few of those
Yeah.
members to come back to Meadowfield. So.
Yeah, you don't fix the wheel that's not broken, that's for
Right.
sure. So good stuff. Go ahead, Counselor.
Just one more quick question. I understand the Department of Education does not provide any funding for playgrounds?
That's correct. All public schools are responsible for maintaining and replacing their own playground equipment, which I guess makes our situation a little bit tricky because we just became the owners of that, or Nova Scotia just became the owners of that a few years ago. And, moving forward, we will create sort of a fund to put into our playground. So when things do get broken or when things need to be replaced, we won't be scrambling and leaving our students without nothing that they sort of currently have.
They don't believe in the socialization of kids, like out on the playground.
And think about how important playgrounds are now. That we know
Huge.
they're the most important. So hopefully
Yeah.
it shouldn't be left to schools moving forward, but in the meantime,
Yeah.
we have big plans here, and I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah, it's lovely for the whole community. Go ahead, Deputy.
So is there a specific, like as far as number wise, or letter of support, or?
I think any and all support is what we really need because we're educators first. This has all been we've learned a ton, and a lot of it's above our heads for what we do. We're not contractors. We don't know how to put out tender quotes for all this stuff. So we feel like any support in any way is what we need. Like Lori really, I say she's quarterback. She's doing it in addition to everything else because it's a necessity for our school.
Thank
So when you get closer and you want that letter of support for grants or whatever, like just send us a note
And we will, and thank you for your last one as well.
yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
We have some sort of pamphlets. It's just
Yeah.
best to leave them.
Sure. Yeah. Don't trip on any wires.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much.
I apologize for the video not working and the budget not coming up either.
That's okay. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
And you don't have to, just so folks know, after you present, you don't have to stay. People always think they have to stay. Oh, yeah. No, I know that. Yeah. Okay, so next we have Yarmouth Pride. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Hi, everyone. I'm Maya Matthew. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Alex Mann. My pronouns are they, them.
We're here to address Council today on behalf of the Southwest Nova Pride Association. We're the committee of LGBTQ citizens and allies from the local area who are working to put on Yarmouth Pride this year. We're here to talk to you guys basically about getting our parade permit through. Having reviewed the agenda for this meeting and the attachments, we seem to all be very much on the same page vis-a-vis parades, but we're here, so we're going to talk to you anyway. Here's some of our
Absolutely,
thoughts.
yes.
So firstly, celebrating Pride has been a tradition in Nova Scotia since the first Pride in Halifax in 1988. We learned recently, actually, that activists back then had to participate with paper bags over their heads to avoid backlash from their communities. So we're very grateful that we're able to be here as ourselves and take off your mask.
Take off our mask.
You can see who we are. And obviously, we've come a long way. Canada is currently considered the safest country for 2S LGBTQ travelers, which we're really proud of. And Nova Scotia is the most diverse province in Canada in terms of gender and sexual orientation, which we found out through StatsCan when they released the last census data. Halifax is actually just behind Victoria, BC in terms of gender diversity, with more than 4,500 people living in our capital who are trans or non-binary. And then on Saturday, September 16th, 2017, we had the first Pride Parade in Yarmouth. And maybe you were there, or maybe you were at one of the two that were held consecutively in 2018 and 2019. And Pride is being celebrated again this year all over Nova Scotia. A lot of communities celebrated in June. We've got Cumberland County, New Glasgow, Antigonish, Port Hawkesbury, Sydney, and Truro. A couple happen in July, including Annapolis, Royal, and Halifax. And Eastern Shores is actually happening this upcoming weekend. And then there's still more that are happening throughout the summer, so including Cape Breton and South Shore are going to be in August, and Pictou and Eskasoni are also happening in September. And as for our part of the world, we are planning to hold Pride in Yarmouth on September 17th this year. And we would really love for that to not just be a fair in Coronation Park, which is what we already have planning underway for. We would also love to be able to hold a full parade.
So why does a parade matter to us so much? Well, the first Pride parades were a protest against injustice. With the more inclusive society has gotten, Pride has become a remembrance of that, but also a celebration of how far we've come. And it's been a long few years for everybody, with COVID hanging over our heads, with local tragedy. And over this year, unfortunately, we've been watching the news and seeing places around the world have outbreaks of anti-LGBT violence, protests. I don't know if you've followed what's going on in Calgary at the moment. It makes us realize just how lucky we are to live somewhere like Yarmouth, where we can hold Pride, where we don't have to put bags over our heads. Basically, we're here because we'd like to kick off this festival with the parade, because the parade for us is as much about accessibility as it is, and inclusivity, as it is about, the great big spectacle of the floats coming down Main Street. As a community, we try to be very attuned to issues of inclusivity and access. And if you'll pardon the pun, a parade that isn't accessible is starting off on the wrong foot. None of this is to say that we don't understand the caution around the issue and the subject. It really reflects well on the community here and the conscientiousness of council that there's been question marks as to whether parades will be approved or not. Our hearts go out to out to the family of little Macaulay Cormier from 2019. 2018? 2018. And it still echoes around the community, and we're trying to be very conscious of that even as we come to you with this ask.
We were granted a permit for a parade in the summer of 2019, and one of our board members recently was detailing our safety concerns that we've been having about the parade as well to some of the participants of that parade in 2019. And as she was talking to people, she did talk to Macaulay's grandmother, who told us that she is very grateful and touched that measures were and are continuing to be put in place to prevent further tragedy. We've talked in depth about safety measures in our committee sessions, and from attachment 9D in the agenda today, we can see that obviously council have as well. Even before we read the proposed policy, which we were very glad to see, we had planned to have the following safety measures in place, which we also had in place in 2019. A daytime parade, only in good weather. We have a rain date for the fair as well, already set for October 1st. A ban on throwing anything from floats, 2 adult spotters on each float, and each vehicle in the parade, of course, must be registered, insured, have proof of current inspection, and be driven by someone with a valid driver's license. And these were all detailed on our form that participants had to check and sign off on. And we also had volunteers as floats were registered, just double checking everybody's paperwork to make sure everything was in order. We've gotten our event insurance confirmed already, and we are in the process actually of incorporating as a nonprofit, which is part of our sort of ongoing long-term efforts towards ensuring accountability and good governance, both for the fair and hopefully parade this year, as well as into the future.
So we're here mostly to ask that you approve the parade permit, but we're also here to issue a formal invitation to everyone in council to please come and join us on September 17th to celebrate pride and inclusivity in our local community. So we'd very much like to see you there. So thanks for having us today. Come to our party next time. If you have any further comments or questions, we can address them now, or you can reach us at yarmouthpride@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, anyone? I think the the parade document kind of takes care of your...
We only saw that after we were invited to come and speak to it, but...
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with the Pride Parade.
Oh, go on, let us feel special.
Because of what happened in the past, obviously, we just, towns and cities all over the province are just taking extra measures.
Absolutely.
Some more severe than others. So we had a really great discussion around, where do we feel safe? And I know the grandmother as well, and you just want to make sure everyone's okay. Because
You have to be sensitive.
Yeah, it's still really, really touchy. Go ahead, Deputy.
Just wondering, will this parade have floats in it, or will it just be walking?
We're hoping for floats, as I said, for issues of accessibility.
Yeah, for sure.
If people can't march, they can't participate in a parade without floats. And
Yep. I guess the only other flip side of that, a little bit of guilty pleasure, is we're planning on doing the J Strong Cup downtown on the 1st and 2nd of October. So if that was the rain date, we may conflict. So just heads up there.
Yeah.
That's
We
worth
can-
knowing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll figure that out.
And we
Yeah.
appreciate it. I know Peter reached out to make sure that the date was proper and we didn't kind of overbook. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Good. Councillor Heather?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. Yes, I was at the last Pride celebration, and I just want to comment that the parades passed right by my house, all the parades in Yarmouth. And I must say that that Pride parade was one of the nicest parades I've ever seen go through the streets of Yarmouth. The energy and the happiness that was in that parade was unbelievable. And so I just hope that however your celebration is put out this year, whether it's a parade or just in Coronation Park, that it's still able to emanate those values of happiness and cheerfulness, and just the high energy was just unbelievable. So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. We'll pass that on to our committee members who were there for the time.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, Ricky.
Okay, staff report, CAO report. Any questions for the CAO? Gosh, I'm not sick, Fire department, and the fire chief is here, I believe he was. Yep, I see him back there. Okay, any questions for the chief? Go ahead, Deputy.
Not a question, just more of a comment. I got to spend a few hours with Mike at the Governor General's or Lieutenant Governor thing in the park there last week, and we just had some great discussions about the networking and stuff that our department's doing with Halifax and other areas, and I just think that's great to, best practices all around and being connected and making sure that we're in the same loop. So kudos to Mike for making those connections on behalf of our town.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question and curiosity more than anything about how things are going when it comes to fire pits and those regulations. Are there many fire pits out there? Many permits have been issued?
Yeah, I don't have an exact number for you right now, but they come in fairly steadily. We're probably in the 20s range, I would say, right now.
Okay.
Yep. Good uptake. Not everybody was able to get a permit, but no issues with helping the property owner understand the reasons why. And the guys are working with them as much as they reasonably can to make it work for the customers.
Excellent. And the other thing, just aside, is that once Mike comes back from vacation, we'll be doing some more videos as we continue our volunteer recruitment, which has been going very well.
Yeah, it's a very, very good. Yeah, it's been a really good tool to reach the community. I had a fellow in my office this afternoon that I'm likely going to sign up. So we're making steady progress. Very targeted approach this time, and it's we're getting really good quality people for sure.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Good. Anything else for the chief? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, operational services. Chad's not here, but if there's anything, we can find him, unless there was something you wanted to bring up. Go ahead, Deputy, and then...
I just wanted to say thanks to Chad and the Todd and the parks crew. They keep our parks looking great, and Todd was a huge help down at the Paint the Park initiative. Made sure the crew was there, made sure we had everything we needed. Met with Gil and I a few times and did a walkthrough. It was just real great. So thanks to them for the job that they continue to do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, just over the last couple of days, I've witnessed firsthand some of the trials and tribulations that our operational services faced, and they spent a day and a half with I don't know how many pieces of equipment and how much manpower just to locate a water shut-off valve for a resident that needed to replace the meter. And it's because we're dealing with old maps that were hand-drawn in the 70s that showed where the location of these things, and over time it got buried, and the map that they had, actually, it was off by about 4 feet, but it took them a day and a half to find it, and just did an incredible job of locating it without doing any harm and satisfying the client. Also, I think probably we should say thanks out loud from the communities in Bloom, because this town looked great when the judges were here, and operational services and parks were paramount. They were the people that made that happen. So the town looked, it was just fabulous. Well, thanks.
Good stuff. Okay. Planning and economic development, and Natalie's here. Anything for Natalie?
Yeah, 2 questions, if I may. First, and I apologize for this being repetitive, but the status of the property of the church on Argyle Street.
It's back on the for sale market.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's back on the for sale market.
Okay. Yeah, and the other property, I guess, is, I think it's changed hands a couple of times, just that it's been brought to my attention that there's some overgrowth of brush on the house that's on the corner of Market Lane and Main that's interfering with pedestrian traffic on the sidewalk. And I just thought that maybe somebody could be, the property owner could be advised that it'd be time to cut that back.
The best way to for us to react is to go to see Click Fix. So
Okay, yep.
I'd appreciate it, and then that
Yep,
way
I'll
our
advise.
bylaw enforcement officer, he's back
I'll
next
advise
week.
them. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Councillor Hatfield?
Thank you, Your Worship. Natalie, I just wanted to say thank you for adding the year-to-year comparisons on the building permits, and it really helps to see that the community, the town appears to be starting to come back after, kind of taking a dive through the COVID period. It really, looks pretty good. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate having.
The only thing I probably, if you'd like, in the next report is to show you what the mix is of building type. So when you look at 2021, you look at, the significant increase of permits by type. But in the residential, for example, I had to do a report for the province. Yeah. And so in 2021, the majority of our residential permits were renovation versus new construction or addition of dwelling units. So I think it would be a good thing to show you guys the mix, because when you look at value and you look at the number of permits, it doesn't necessarily reflect, oh my goodness, there must be 50 or 100 new residential units. It's that the effort was in individual homeowners doing renovation. So I think it would be interesting to see the data like that. If you'd like it, I'd be happy to share it in the next committee of the whole report.
Appreciate that. And I mean, it does reflect the fact that Yarmouth is a community of old housing stock. So it's really great to hear that there is money going into renovation, because otherwise, with our old housing stock, if we're not continually renovating, we see the results in derelict buildings. So, yeah, that's great. Anyway, I thank you very much
No
for
problem.
that.
Go ahead, Deputy.
I just wanted to say thanks. Every time I send out an email with a question, it's about 5 minutes to a reply, and I get exactly what I need, so I really appreciate that. And I noticed some of the properties around that had longer grass, maybe last year. We really seem to be on top of that this year, so thank you to you and your staff for taking care of that. I realize we can't always do anything with the building itself, but the properties look good, and just having that grass cut is much appreciated, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else for Natalie? Good, thank you very much. Engineering, and DeMario is not here because he's a new dad, again. Okay, Finance Department, Jerry's here. Any questions for our finance officer? That was easy. Yarmouth Recreation, Frank's here. I couldn't open the report. I don't know what was wrong today, but.
A big shout out for Canada Day. Job well done. South End Playground was hopping. It reminded me of my childhood. I have heard nothing but great feedback. The ability to work together on that, and just to see the outcome for their community, to, bring back something that's a sense of pride to a lot of us, in a place that, we fixed up and hopefully stays fixed. So just really appreciate the effort in that. I thought that was a great overall day. Your staff went hard, and I know the community really appreciated it. So great job.
Thank you, and I apologize for my report. There was an issue with the download, but
So it wasn't me, okay.
no, it wasn't you. It should be up now, but it wasn't up earlier. So.
All righty. Any questions on, go ahead.
Just a real quick one. How are day camps going? You've got a bunch of things on the go, right?
Pretty well. Summer fun day camp, 5 to 8 year olds, pretty steady. I think we're full for the rest of the summer, so that's between 30 and 35 children each day. Sports camp, averaging around 16 to 18 per day. And our youth outdoor active leadership program has an average of about 7 youth per session. So going pretty well, considering there's lots more opportunities for camps out there, which is great. We've got Mariners on Main, we've got Boys and Girls Club, we've got Juniper House. There's lots of opportunities for kids. So I think that's great when that happens.
That's only a good thing. Yeah. How's your staff?
And an innovative camp as well.
Yeah, the entrepreneur camp.
And we have a sprint kayak camp next week as well.
Oh, really?
So that's
for kids?
At Milo, yeah, for children, yeah.
Well, I'm looking for an adult one. As far as your staffing goes, how's everything there? Did you?
It's pretty good. I didn't fill our full complement. I wasn't able to fill a canoe kayak coach or skate park supervisor instructor. We tried, we exhausted most avenues, and I'm not sure what's happening with the labor force, but we're surviving.
Yeah, okay, excellent, thank you.
Good. Any more questions? Good to go. Thank you. Okay, grant policy, and the recommended motion there is to recommend that council amend the grants policy. Okay, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Cleveland. Any discussion on that one? Go ahead, CAO.
So, Your Worship, there were a couple of questions I think that remained, things that, a couple of assumptions that we built into the policy that was presented and you're looking at today. But Lindsay, would you like to speak to those? Just grab the mic there. Yep.
Are we just talking about the assumptions or the unanswered questions?
The assumptions and those questions as well, right?
Okay, so a few things we had to assume after our little information session. Because we're going to do grants twice a year, we assume with an April-September split. So you can let us know if that's fine. And we also assumed, because we're having 2 rounds of grants, we'll have to split the pot of money. So we assumed in the spring session, we would do 70 because we usually have a higher uptake of grants then, and 30 for the fall. So that can be changed if need be. Questions that weren't answered. So we were wondering if someone applied the first round and they weren't awarded money, did you still want them to be able to apply for the second round? Think about it.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, if they applied and they didn't get money, it depends on the reason. If it's something that goes against our policy where we just can't, then we could advise them and say you can't. So for example, a provincial or national organization, right? So we just wouldn't, right? But if it's something else, and I don't know. Yeah.
It's a question that occurred to us as we were working through it, and we didn't answer it, or we didn't ask you that question previously, but because it did come up, we thought we would raise it here for your consideration. We can go ahead and approve the policy or recommend the policy to council without that question being answered. That may be something that, through experience, you'll want to answer, next year or after you've run through a year or two of operating the policy.
Okay. Is anyone okay with that? Go ahead.
And the other question was, we talked about having people come in and present, so we never really nailed down how are we going to decide who we want to present? Is it going to be a majority of the councillors, just one councillor?
Okay. Whew. What do you think, folks?
To me, it should be a majority of councillors. That's my humble opinion. If one councillor wishes to have a presentation, then perhaps that councillor should reach out to that organization. So I'd go for a majority if it were me, and that's just me speaking my opinion.
Everybody good with majority? Okay.
Your worship, and that is also consistent with having presentations to council generally, that it's by motion, it's a majority, so that's consistent.
Okay, so you don't need a motion for that, we're just.
So your worship, since council has been clear on that, if you recommend, we are a committee of the whole, if you recommend this policy, if you're okay with it as it's drafted, we can add a clause before it comes to council next month to include just that presentations will be by majority vote of council.
Perfect. Everybody good with that? Yes. All right. Yeah. Was there anything else there, Lindsay? That's all. Okay, so if we're okay as it is and they will add that extra clause, then the motion is that council amend the grants policy. Did we make that motion? It was made. Okay, so any further questions? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. The investigation policy, that's to recommend that there be no amendments made to the investigation policy as recommended by the OHS committee. Okay, Councillor Dare, second by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. The noise bylaw, that's to recommend that council approve first reading of the noise bylaw. Go ahead.
I had a brief discussion with the CAO earlier regarding a minor contradiction in that policy, and I would make a motion that it be referred back to staff for further amendments.
Okay. That's your motion.
That's my motion.
Seconded by Councillor Bell. Okay. Any discussion?
Curious. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll let CAO answer that.
So Councillor Dares brought to my attention before the meeting that we talked about the decibel levels and so on, but we also talked about provisions around vehicles modified that create disruption or noise nuisance in the community. But Councillor Dare has also pointed out that further down in the policy, there's a clause that says that that actually won't be policed through this bylaw. So we want to take out that contradiction. That is one area where we get a lot of complaints, and we want to make sure that the exhaust system aspect of motor vehicle offenses that would be policed under the Motor Vehicle Act as opposed to this policy does not include exhaust, that we want exhaust to be policed through this bylaw.
Good. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Parade policy, to recommend that council adopt the parade policy. Okay, moved. Second by Councillor Cleveland. Any discussion on this one?
Your
Go
Worship.
ahead. Whoops, sorry. Councillor Bell and then CAO.
Well, I was just wondering whether there'd been any communication with, for instance, the firefighters with regards to no parades after dark. I guess what I'm asking is whether parades that involve walking should be excluded from the provision not to have any parades after dark. I'm just asking because my recollection is there has been a history of torchlight parades to recognize Fire Prevention Week, and I haven't seen any recently, so perhaps that's something that's gone by the wayside. But the question I have is whether or not we have looked at, whether there are instances where after dark gatherings on the street could be exempted if they didn't include mechanical, vehicles. Just a question. Is there ever an instance where there would be a walking parade that someone would want to have at night that we haven't thought of? It's just a query. So.
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know, I can't speak to Chad's thought process around whether or not the torchlight parade or other types of nighttime parades entered his mind as he considered it, and he's not here to speak for himself. But what I can tell you is that we met, myself, a couple members of the RCMP, Mr. Grant and Chad, to discuss the Cape Breton recommendation and their policy, and this policy kind of falls out of that discussion and what general consensus was. I'll be the first to concede it may not be perfect, that there may be situations that will arise that won't fit neatly, and we'll deal with those as they arise. But generally, nighttime parades, they bring an extra complexity, whether there's walkers or vehicles, in terms of safety of the people attending the parade, not just the people in the parade. So if there are situations that don't fit neatly within this policy or any other, we're open to recognizing that we may not have thought of everything, and we'll deal with those situations if and when they arise.
Okay, Councillor Hatfield.
Hi, thanks for this policy. I think we're on the right track myself. My only question is 7.0, responsibility of the viewing public, and it's more about the language, and I'm the worst person to be talking about proper language, so I may be completely wrong here, but I just when it says for the responsibility of the viewing public, do not stand or sit in the street during a parade, do not park along the parade route, do not attempt to cross the street. And I just wonder, is that do not as in, or is it you shall not? Like, I don't know if that is firm enough, and if that actually says that people cannot. Like, do not is, I think about a mother speaking to their child and say, oh, don't do that, do not do that. What does that mean? You don't do it, or you cannot do it? And I'm just really concerned about the parking along the parade route piece, and I just wonder if that's strong enough and if that's enforceable the way it's written. So I just question that.
So I agree that the phrasing may not be, again, may not be perfect. The intent I think is fairly clear. It is not a case where this is a bylaw where we'll be writing tickets for people sitting in the street. I mean, I know you recognize that. It's a policy that gives guidance to parade organizers and to the public, and communication goes with that to explain what is expected and what is not. So what I would say is that the phrasing could be better, and we can work on that. So it's maybe more consistent with yeah. But in the end, I think the intent is clear, and we and the parade organizers can work with this. And again, we have to do a good job of communicating generally about parades with the public and expectations as they approach around parade safety, and that goes without saying why. And parade organizers have to understand what the expectation is from the town if we're going to permit parades, that they have to do their part to ensure that these things, these these standards are adhered to. So it's a cooperative effort. And I did want to say, Your Worship, that the reason this is before council as a policy, because we haven't really had this level of depth in the past from a policy perspective from council on parades, is that the traffic authority is the person the individual who provides permits to parades or other activities within our street right-of-ways. That's his authority. But in the case of parades, these are celebrations, community events, and we know that we've had situations in the past that have gone horribly wrong, a situation. So the intent of bringing this to council, this discussion and this policy, is because council speaks, and I'm saying this for the purpose of people who are looking at this and wondering what's going on. Council speaks with one voice to staff by setting standards through policies and bylaws. And so we take this direction, and the traffic authority will work within this direction to issue permits or not issue permits in the future. And parades will be expected, all parades will be expected to meet this standard once they're permitted. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that clear, what the relationship is between council and the traffic authority.
Perfect. Okay, so we're safe to vote on this one, and you can.
So again, Your Worship, it is a policy. We're at committee of the whole. So when council sits as committee of the whole, you are advisory to council. So this would go forward as advice to council to be actually approved in a couple weeks' time. But Councillor Heather raised a good point about the phrasing in some of this. So we'll take a look at that, and it may look slightly different, but with the same intent when it comes back.
And I think that's what I meant, to make sure that you're good with the wording, but we can still pass this on to council.
Recommend it to council.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Heather, you're good with that? Okay. All right. Any more concerns, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay. Correspondence, additions, construction bids?
Okay, Your Worship, there is an attachment that I'd like to speak to. So the multi-phase active transportation project that we've been undertaking along the Haley Road and down connecting to existing sidewalks and trails, I think it's been received very well by the public. We're now at the point of phase 5, which is the intersection at Haley and Stars Road. The engineering department tendered for the replacement of those lights and some minor hard surface improvements around asphalt and curbing, and the bids came in. Now, unfortunately, the bid that came in was significantly above the budget, above expectation, and you'll see in the email that the town engineer provided that there's an opinion from Stacy Muse, the consulting engineer, who provided an explanation and a little bit of outside perspective on perhaps why the bid was so far out of what we might have expected. And I think what's important here is that Mr. Muse recommends that we award the tender. And so that is also the opinion of the town engineer. What it will mean is, in order to meet the requirements of the grant that we received through the province to do all this work, is that next fiscal year, it may tie our hands in terms of our capital budget of having to put a little more in there for active transportation trail. And the memo gives you some indication of where that might be. It might be in the $400,000 to $500,000 range to achieve the outcomes that the grant requires. So, COVID has impacted our ability to get everything we want for the dollars available. We will make that argument that no other project has been able to come in on budget that they would have created pre-COVID to do that during or let's hope post-COVID. So the reason this is on your agenda as a committee of the whole item is because you have choices. You have choices on whether to consider the bid or not, and I would ask that we have a special council meeting after this meeting if you choose to take the town engineer's recommendation, which, by the way, I do support 100%. The lights at Stars and Haley Road are extremely busy. It's an extremely busy intersection, and they often fail, and that becomes a problem. So the intersection would look much the same as the intersection here at Parade and Main in terms of the light configuration and in terms of the technology. So it would be a radar sensed system that would change based on traffic patterns and what's going on at the time. That's one of the main complaints with the intersection we're talking about, is that it often seems in times that aren't busy that cycle takes forever, and sometimes people actually don't pay attention to the lights after a little while and just proceed. So this will fix the maintenance issue. This will fix the maintenance issue and I think make the flow of traffic better. It will, again, tie our hands a little bit on next year's capital budget, but I don't need a decision on this unless you're not willing to have a special council meeting to consider the bid.
Okay. Go ahead there.
All I have to say about that is that set of lights has been one of the main sources of complaint that I've received over the past while. And if we can get it done, we should get it done. It's really that simple. It's an important piece. It's a safety issue. It's a lot of things, but that set of lights needs to be fixed. So I know that this may cause a bit of a budgeting issue, but it's certainly something that should be considered strongly.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Heather.
Yeah, I just want to agree with what Councillor Cleveland said. And when you think about the people coming into our town, they come in through that intersection. I mean, that is a highly, highly used intersection, used by people within the town, but highly used by people from without the town coming in. So, we have an onus on us to ensure that that is a safe intersection for people using it.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead.
Just one comment that I would like to make that I hadn't already is that we only received one bid, and as Stacy Muse, the consulting engineer, pointed out, is there are projects that are going out to tender in other parts of the province where no bids are being received. And one of our concerns is that Black & McDonald, the subcontractor that will provide the actual traffic lights and install them, they're the only ones that bid, and they've gone through the work of putting together a bid to compete for this. If we go out in a year's time, because now we've changed our mind, there's no guarantee, if they're busy, and they're busy, there's no guarantee that we would even receive a bid. So I think while their bid may be higher, while the bid may be higher than we anticipated, I think it was our intention to do this project, and it should continue to be so.
Okay, so I'm looking for that motion then.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Heather. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, the minister's visit. So we're going to have some questions around programs, Jeff, but in a nutshell, the Minister of Housing, he's also the Minister of Youth and Diversity, and he visited here last week, and he asked to sit and chat, so Jeff and I met with him, and it was basically to see where we are, but a lot of information with regard to programs that we could tap into. We had discussions, about developers, what can they do, not-for-profits, all those pieces. So in particular, Gil, did you want to ask in particular?
Sure. I guess my concern, I wished I could have attended the conversation, but just that the future plans for Juniper House to incorporate hopefully a new shelter for the women, but also some second stage housing. And I just wondered what programs might have been discussed that would be in line with that.
Yeah, so we spoke generally about housing programs very enthusiastically. It's not often we have a federal minister visit us, but he made time in his calendar, did come in and had a chat, and he was very enthusiastic about the housing programs, but he was particularly enthusiastic, I think, about that kind of special housing, housing that meets those kind of special needs that he clearly recognized and was supportive of. So we asked specifically about that transition housing piece, and I believe that he said that there was the intake had closed. No announcements had been made on that second intake under that. The program, I believe, was a section of the co-investment program. So he didn't speak specifically to it any more clearly than what I'm saying. So what I can do is I do have contact with his staff, have their business cards. So if Juniper House, as an example, if they have not applied yet, if they haven't completed an application and they want more information, I can provide you with that contact directly in the minister's office. They were keen, and I reached out to them immediately after the meeting, provided them with the Juniper House contact information because I thought the minister might be interested in that.
Yeah, and it was important enough for it to be on his list of places he wanted to visit. So we don't know if he made it there because he was on a tight schedule, but it was on his list. And I think I was sending him to Shift House and a couple other places, so yeah. So that was just for information purposes, because I know Gil had some questions. And then C, emancipation.
So there has been some planning for Emancipation Day. Last year it was held on August 1st, just to kind of coincide with the rest of the province, but we've decided to kind of do our own thing this year, and there's been a couple meetings, although I haven't been able to attend. I'm in the loop, and we'll be attending the next one next week. It's been decided on August 20th that this will happen, and it'll coincide with what the Greenville kind of group is doing as well. So we're going to hold something probably at Yarmouth Elementary from 11 to 1 on that day, and then things will take place out in Greenville from 2 o'clock on. So just kind of that whole piece of working together and making sure we celebrate things properly. So just wanted to give heads up where council had approved the money that, things are moving forward on that, and I'll have a more detailed plan after we meet. So just heads up.
Good stuff. Thank you. Okay. I think that's it. So we're looking for a motion to go in camera. Oh, CAO?
Yeah, okay, so we have a few things discussing camera. We're going to have a special council meeting to consider that tender.
Yeah, do you want to do that now?
Do the special council meeting, then go in camera
Sure.
within the context of that meeting?
Okay, so we're adjourning the committee of the whole, and I'll call the special council meeting to order. All those other things record of attendance, the absent with regrets. We want to, Councillor Hatfield made a motion to excuse Councillor Lesser, second by the other Councillor Hatfield. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
So, Your Worship, the one item is the bid on Phase 5 of the Haley Road Active Transportation Trail. I apologize, I don't have a memo for you from the town engineer. Something came up, and he's off for a couple of weeks. So, what I do have is information that I can give you verbally, and I'm reading from the bid sheet. Okay, so the estimated contract price excluding HST, and the bid is from Aberdeen. The bid is $570,745, and then there's HST on top of that for a total price of $656,356.75, and they will complete the work within 17 weeks of August the 8th, 2022 start. So that's for your information. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Was just that we were given 3 options there. Is that the full option? That's the 2.7 or 2.8?
Nope, this is just the Phase 5, which is just the traffic lights and minor improvements at the intersection.
Okay.
The other pieces to get to the length of trail, that would be subsequent phases of the trail estimated cost, right, based on our recent experience, because we've recently done a couple segments. That's what DeMario is suggesting we would need in the capital budget next year, because we don't have it. So it might be as much as another $420,000 to $500,000 next year to complete the trail requirement. And again, we will ask for some leniency there because of COVID.
Of course. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, moved, second by the deputy. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. All right, and motion to go in camera. Thank you. Second by Councillor Heather.